Great. So welcome, everybody. We'll call to order the first Heritage and Cultural Committee on this Thursday, September 22nd, 2022 at 9:04. The first committee to meet in the West Perth Municipal Building. First time. So welcome, everybody. So the meeting is officially called to order. We are looking for acceptance of the agenda.
I'll move that we accept the agenda.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Right, second, we'll see that as passed. Any disclosure of pecuniary interests?
No.
Seeing none, we will move forward. Looking for confirmation of the adoption of the minutes. They are attached if you're in doubt from April 28th.
We'll go this time.
First, motion by Murray, second by Christopher.
Just go back and forth.
Considered
Okay, sounds
passed.
good.
Great. And then we're on to item 5.1, the Mitchell official plan, list of heritage properties.
So I'll just report that I believe at the last meeting, there was a conversation about how many parcels were, or how many properties were identified and where they were identified. So just to provide the committee with lots of information, or the complete package, we provided the section 14.14 of the West Perth Mitchell Ward official plan. That's where that is sourced from. And then there's a list of properties in 14.4.1, which is the properties that we identified in the official plan as having heritage value. And then the policies of the official plan, I've given the complete set there. I'm actually not in a great position to speak to them today.
Yep.
In terms of what they mean, but I can try to answer questions, or we can get you answers to any questions if you have them about that policy.
I know you mentioned it last time, but I wasn't aware that we had these.
Yeah, so
Are they still available?
So Christopher is referring to the Mitchell Architecture Walking Tour document, which actually has 10 properties on it, I believe. 10, yeah, I think a total of 10 on that doc.
12.
Yeah.
12.
Yeah, 12, okay. And in that case, we have a case of those left. We should really update them. It highlights some of the unique architecture that we have that's beyond the four that are listed in the official plan. I think it was when you have a read through that little document, it's a great document, and I really I think it really sort of demonstrates that interface between people that are walking in your community and our trail system and tying it into heritage. And I think we want to probably think about redoing this at some point in time in the future and linking it back to what we've done with our trails. So we can get you a few of those before you leave today. We've got,
Okay, yeah,
and you folks should have them.
I think it's a great idea.
I think there's 13.
Yeah,
Because the Hicks house
yeah.
is there, but not numbered.
12, 13.
Yeah. And is it the Waterloo Street? Is that the Moren's house? Number 3? Is that, I think is that the right one?
I don't know if it is or not.
Or no, it might be St. Andrews.
It's square.
Oh, yeah, it's number 1. Sorry. That's the Howie Morenz's house.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Right. Right. So I think a great little resource. I think a little resource that we probably in the course of time can turn this into a digital version for the website, as and perhaps complement it with some updated photography. These are the kinds of things as we build out a website. They're like a lot of things, you don't build them in one day. You build them over time, and the heritage section of our website could take this and take it off the paper and put it onto the web. And it was done through the Perth County Heritage. I think it was an association. This product was done in it's getting to be a few years old, but the nice thing about heritage is it stays fairly current.
This was the second
version of it though.
Was it?
We found the an original
Really?
handwritten one.
Okay,
Nice.
good. So I think we'll have to have a look at whether or not we can build this in and make it more accessible. It's one of those classic things where I think we had a few cases of them. We worked on giving them out, and then
Now there's
We
like, do we
kinda
have any
lost.
left? Right,
and, you
yeah,
know, sort of all the people that you want to have them
Yeah.
at the easy pickup spots have them, but you're not catching the people who are interested because they're coming and they're walking around and don't know where to get one, you know.
right.
So I think the internet provides a great resource in that way. So we'll have to get them. But again, as I said, when we get into another agenda item here, I'll slip out and grab copies of them for you.
My specific question from a citizen was, and that was kind of where we were trying to find out when we were talking about the signage of Pizza Hut,
Right.
on how much sway, whatever we have as a committee to say, this is, like, do we need to set specific rules for future use and signage of the Hicks House? Or is that left to future committees, that if somebody needs to come up later, and we can kick it down to the next one if Bob's a better one to ask that question to?
Yeah, I'll take a high level shot at it. I think the policy structure that's in the official plan gives us that kind of high level, what the goals that have to be met,
Yeah.
but it doesn't get into the specific
Yeah.
procedure. And when we went through the signage, I think, you know, you're going for that outcome. But what procedurally are the steps? And I can ask Bob if we
Okay.
need a procedure for that, or talk to the county planning department.
Or if it is just the way we did it, and that's the best way to do it.
Well, and perhaps it is, but, and we don't, you know, as you probably was, you can see with the limited number of properties, we don't deal with it that often.
Right.
And then I think you get into that environment where everyone, like, maybe the folks that have been around for a long time know what's happening.
Yeah.
But if they do, if you've got that corporate memory,
Yeah.
which are the concerns that I
Right.
think about.
Yeah,
And so procedurally, what those steps are and what kind of information we give to the applicant, I can do some research on
Okay,
that.
that would
And
be-
get back. And let
Yeah.
you-
Because these properties, the four here have been designated, there should be some document somewhere listing what
what was said.
attributes have been designated.
Yeah.
Because for Hicks House, obviously it's exterior, but probably not interior, because they've done a lot of changes in there. So if it is exterior, and I'm sure that's it, that'd be part of it anyway. Signage would come under that category. And if it has been designated or that West Perth does have decision-making authority with regards to how you're going to affect the exterior of the building. So that, I mean, that, I know that I'm beating a dead horse here, but that sign, I don't think technically would have been allowed. And I think we said, well, B&B has a sign like that, so
Yeah.
we should let, I think at
We
some
ended
point,
up
maybe we should just say,
compromising, yeah.
okay, we're not going to do that anymore.
Right. Like, you have what you have now.
Yeah.
And then
yeah,
going
we'll
forward,
grandfather
here's-
what's there,
Yeah.
but we will stick to the designation and say any further signage has to be in keeping with the design of the building. And specifically what was designated.
Right.
All right, so I think I hear what you're
Yep.
saying, I hear what you're describing, so part of it is having a very clearly articulated procedure, and then part of it's being consistent.
Yes.
And those things go together hand in hand,
Yeah.
because if you don't have the procedures and follow them, you end up compromising.
Yeah.
So I hear you very clearly. I'll research this
Yeah.
sort of area of how we implement this
Yep.
policy and see if we can figure out what policy we have. It's only the second time in 7 years that I've been here that I've encountered one of these. The other one was on 98 Huron Road. It was really a pre-consultation at that time. We were able to provide the person making the inquiry, because it wasn't the landowner in that case, with a framework of what was important, and it was the facade, and we have that somewhere. We have that
Yeah.
description somewhere, but again, getting that out into the transparent public
Right.
document will make it more accessible.
And the thing is, if it has been designated, it's no longer a local issue. It becomes a provincial issue then.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes,
so,
presumably.
yeah, it's,
Yeah.
that's no longer a local decision.
okay.
Okay, sorry. I'll
Well,
stop now.
and the Hicks House is unique in that there are active businesses
Yeah,
going in and out of it.
Yeah.
Like most of the other ones aren't, they're not looking to put Pizza Hut on the front of,
no,
the
but I mean,
residents, but we need to-
someone, you know, someone may buy one of these buildings
Yep.
and say, I don't like the tower, I want to take it off.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
you know, in that case, they wouldn't be allowed.
Right.
We're designated.
So I'll just ask the
Good
clerk
point.
or the deputy clerk, one of you two, do you want a resolution directing us to do some investigation on these procedures and bring it back to the committee at a future meeting?
I don't think you need a motion
Just
for that.
just direction. Okay, thanks. I'll take it as direction then, and
Good.
we'll document it in the minutes.
Great. Anything else to say about that?
No, I'll shut up now.
No, very good. All right, item 5.2, Murray's turn to talk.
Oh, yes. We brought back the music in the park for July and August, and it was very well received, or I thought it was anyway.
Yeah.
I had so many people come up and say thank you. They really enjoyed getting out, the fellowship, the music was good, and I wish I could take all the credit, but I can't. I actually didn't do that much at all. There was Dustin Smith did a lot of it, and oh my goodness, I forget the lady's name. Trish.
Yes,
Trish McNaughton.
Yeah.
And between the two of them, of course, with you guys backing me, of
Yeah.
course.
Just encouraging you from the
Yes,
sidelines.
yes. So
Yeah.
really, it was just kind of a, everything went all the time.
Yeah.
So I would suggest going forward, again, we don't know who will be on, or if I'll be here
Yeah.
after elections or whatever, but I would suggest that we try to do it again next year.
Yeah.
Maybe once.
For sure.
Whatever the committee decides, once a
Yeah.
month there. And then also maybe something like a free will. There was a lot of people said, we would like to donate, we don't
Yeah.
know where. And I said, well, we hadn't talked about that yet. So
Just enjoy the concert.
yes,
Yeah,
take for what it is now and we'll work at that next
Yeah.
year. But I would suggest maybe doing that just to help out because it's a drain on our committee
Yeah.
resources otherwise.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad we did it.
yeah, and thank you for spearheading that. We really, Christopher and I just answered the odd email of like, yeah, keep going. I think
Well,
you're doing well.
I really didn't know what
It
I
was like,
was doing.
We made you a concert promoter in one summer.
Well, I just had good people doing the work for me.
Yeah.
I guess that's, you learn to delegate. Right,
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, I was very glad to be part of that, or our committee to
Yeah.
be part of that.
It was great. And I heard nothing but positive reviews,
Mhm.
both there and then after of just people that knew. So the question, I guess, that's out of that then for the staff is, can we just, or what is the procedure for taking in money at a public event like that?
Yeah, and I'll look to Jeff if I say this wrong, but I think ultimately I'd have to come back to you after speaking with the treasurer, because if we're taking donations, unless it's a specified project, like, for example, Ketterson Pavilion.
Yeah.
And whether or not music at the park qualifies as such,
Mhm,
I don't know, that's for our treasurer. We can do that, or it would just kind of go to general.
Yeah.
So, we do it for cemeteries at decoration days
Yeah.
and things like that. And generally, if we don't have staff there, we'll kind of have someone delegated to take the cash and issue receipts at that time. And then if the value deems it worthy of donation receipt from the municipality. When you've given the receipt, you've taken down the proper information.
Yeah.
The municipality will then subsequently mail you out your donation receipt for tax purposes later. And then all of that under the caveat that I would have to double check that.
Yeah.
Treasurer.
And would summer, if we named it something fancy, would that be, can we get that, like, what would the process be of getting that considered as a project?
Yeah, and that's something I'll have to come back
Okay.
to the committee with, unless Jeff has any insight on it, but
Well, that's what we were like this summer, we're like, we'll just do it. We'll figure out, like,
yeah.
we're in the middle of it, it's working, yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, I've heard as well, there's been encouragement that, we could collect some donations.
Yes.
And then help to complement it, and it is a little tricky in terms of how we receive that, but we'll
Yeah.
figure it out. I think we can figure out a way of making sure we have someone that can do that. We'll just figure out what the procedure is.
Okay, yeah, and the question would be if staff would be required to be there, or if a committee member would be sufficient for accountability.
Like I said,
you
with the decoration days, it'd be quote unquote a committee member.
Okay,
Thank you.
and then to follow up on Murray, is there an official process we can thank, especially Dustin and Trish? For, like, Dustin really did a lot.
Sure, I would
Yes.
say that the committee just can direct the chair to write a thank you note
Okay.
to them. I think is your best, that's as
Yep.
formal as it needs to get, but I
Okay.
think it's nice to acknowledge, because
Yeah.
sometimes you forget that people appreciate those acknowledgements, so
Yeah.
good for you to think of it.
Absolutely.
We do have blank cards too.
Okay.
Under West Perth logo that you could. Right.
Do you want to direct me to do that, Murray?
Absolutely. That'll be you.
Delegate.
Wait a minute.
I'm getting it.
Yeah, good at that.
The next point is coming to you, Chris, so be careful.
Oh,
Hang on.
that's when I may have to get up and go and do something.
I was always told that a thank you costs nothing, but it means so much.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
he-
think this is a
And
good point.
Dustin definitely, was there early, the first to be there, the last to leave.
Yeah.
And, from my own observations, definitely would not have happened without
Oh,
his
yeah.
input and, yeah.
And when we're on that, something just came to mind.
Yeah.
If I may. For the days that it's really sunny, we have some kind of a tent thing here, do we, Jeff?
So we've got 4 or
Okay.
3 that are good. The one's kind of a little rough on us. We may have to take that inventory, but we've got 3 really good 10 by 10 little sunshade type
Mhm.
tents, the little marketing tents.
Yes.
And we do have those that we could
Okay.
use.
Next, when going forward, we'll make sure that's part of it because the heat coming down affects the
Yeah,
soundboard.
it was hot that first day.
Yes, yes, and we had,
Yeah,
I think Trish and I did go and.
I think you did.
Yes,
You got
yes.
something from
Yeah.
somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah,
From the,
one's the BIA or a couple are the BIA and one's a West Perth tent, and we sort of allow them to get used by both. So we've
Yeah.
got those. We just have to remember to get them on site and delegate someone to do that.
yes, yes, as we get a little more organized.
Yeah, maybe there's a list. Maybe
Yes,
we've
a
created
checklist.
So we should definitely add that to the next, probably November, start already
Mhm.
talking about it. Because we'll only have like
Great
the
idea.
two
Get things
or three
organized.
meetings, at least to make sure whoever comes to us is on board.
And I would just interject that today we're going to ask for your input on budget in a
Yep.
few minutes when we get to one of the next agenda items, if not the next one. And if you could think about what it cost you per, and then do a rough estimate of what you would
Mhm.
want to put in your budget for 2023, this is the time to identify that.
Yep.
Okay,
And if you want to assume a bit of cost recovery through donations, I think
Right.
you can probably assume that, and we'll have to work out the details, but you're just going to come to that in a couple minutes.
Yep.
Perfect. Good.
but yes, sounds good. Just calculating in my head.
Yeah, I'm giving you that heads up.
Yeah.
I know what you do. I think you can do these calculations pretty quick.
Well, kind of.
Great. Anything else to discuss? Good. All right, looking for a land acknowledgement update, just to see where we are with the process there.
So ultimately, we were looking for the minutes to be adopted by the committee.
Yep.
Those are going to go forward to council on the next agenda, and we'll bring forward a report on those. We have unofficially shared them with an event that's upcoming, so the land acknowledgement can be completed, and that's actually today.
It's happening today.
And it's the Yes in My Backyard event through economic development. We did receive some feedback that it was very powerful and very strong and good messaging. So I would acknowledge the hard work that's gone into it. I would ask the committee, for maybe a little bit of guidance on the vision of when it's to be used, and I'll share our rationale is that, we think it should be used at this time, at ceremonial events as opposed to the daily. Because we feel it would get lost in the daily, so we would be looking to use it at, like I said, maybe kind of special events and, first council meetings, swearing in ceremonies, that type of thing. And we just wanted to make sure the committee was okay with us bringing forward that recommendation to council.
Well, and that was the question, was we didn't know if there was already precedent for, like, if there's already some sort of, here's what we do at a swearing in, here's what we do at whatever, to find which one it fit, or if there's no procedure, didn't want to reinvent or make more work for you guys. So weren't sure what you already had or where you wanted to go to, so tried to be enough broad to say this is where we should be using, but don't want to presume.
I think there's definitely traditional procedure or precedence as far as pen to paper policy or procedure. It wouldn't exist. And I think that, that, and if there were pen to paper can be changed, and this is likely an instance where it can be and should be. And we'll bring that forward to council here and look forward to their recommendation.
Right. Yeah, and with the discussions with Chief Henry, he was, in the midst of everything, he's like, when there's nothing worse than a unenthusiastic land acknowledgement just that seems to be tacked on and rushed through. And he's like, sometimes it'd be better to, you go to some meetings and you go, I'd rather them not say anything than say what they just said, right? Where you just, oh, well, we got to do it, so whatever. And so it's definitely written in a way that is intended in the report to say there's, you could just say the first line if that's all you wanted to say, and you can, depending on, he said where the best ones are is that when you take it and make it work with whatever it is you're doing. So if you're just, having a quick council meeting and you're like, yeah, we just acknowledge we're on First Nations land, done, move on, right? Like you're taking that. Whereas if you're doing something that was bigger or, to do with the water, you could even add more to it and say, yeah, this is the river, this is what it was called, like, those kind of things. Here's a story that we know from First Nations using the water or whatever, right? So it was really meant as a guide rather than just saying you have to use this every time you whatever. So does that make sense?
Yeah, and so, and it's nice to facilitate this conversation because Dan and I are going to try to, and I think Dan's delegating. Delegations that came today against that a lot of work.
We're on the wrong side of the table over here.
Maureen, I've got this down.
Yeah.
We're obviously going to we want to bring the report to council. The timing, we'll get it to this council before it's completed because we'll get it in October. Yeah, we have a ceremonial opportunity coming up with the inaugural first meeting of the new council. Yeah. And I guess I just want to sort of the way I kind of see the concept, and I'm really glad you had a conversation with the person that helped you develop it, because I feel very strongly that way, that if you just go through it as emotions, it gets lost. Yeah. And the meaning gets lost, and it's much more meaningful when you use it. And I like that idea of using perhaps the first line on a more routine basis and the more substantial version in ceremonial cases, because it has meaning. And I think, the policy that we may develop, or the sort of what we say in the policy document that brings forward the acknowledgement statement, is this is this is our acknowledgement statement that's reflective of the area that West Perth is.
Yeah.
And that we would see it being used at inaugural meetings of council and swearing in ceremonies and other sort of ceremonial occasions. And then we just, we track that and think about whether the meeting that we're having sort of meets that test
Yeah.
of ceremonial occasion.
Yeah.
And because there's just sometimes it's unusual, it's the right crowd or it's the right circumstance
Yeah.
that it's more ceremonial, but it's not an actual ceremony. And then the budget or the mayor and council can make that decision
Yeah.
on a case-by-case basis when the budget or the agenda for the meeting is set. So it can be very pragmatic, but we just want to make sure it's meaningful.
Yeah, and I would even add of,
Yeah.
depending on the, like, even if you're having a council and if it falls on a particular day or there's something in the news, right? Like all those things where then you're like, yeah, you can take an extra few minutes to go, this is something that happened. Like it's supposed to be a living thing, not just, written in stone that you go back to because you have to. So.
Yeah, and I'll interpret that as, for example, that meeting each year that's that our council meeting that's closest to September 30th
Yeah.
each year would
Yeah.
make sense to be a sort of programmed
Yeah.
time when we insert it in the agenda. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thanks. That input really helps.
Is that good?
Just those thoughts, and we'll develop a report. And of course, it's up to council to accept. And I think the logic's great here, and staff will recommend it.
Yeah. And if you, when you table it to council, if you would like me to be there, I can be there too if they have any questions, I presume, without looking at. As long as my significant other tells me that I can be there, but yeah, as long as there's nothing else going on that I'm already obliged to be at,
Check the calendar.
I would make myself available if you would like me to be there. So, great.
Thank you.
Any other questions from you guys or input? Good. All right, we'll go down to the budget discussion, which is attached to the back of our documents.
So really, we just wanted to get the budget in front of the committee, kind of get the wheels spinning, if you will. If there's anything right now you can identify that you want to change or look to add, and et cetera. I don't think we're looking to walk away here with a budget approved by any means from this committee or recommended from this committee, but we just wanted to start that process. And if there's questions, we can get them back to you and et cetera. So a little more time on it this year, but.
And I'll add a little information to help you interpret the budget for the last couple of years. For 2020, we had a higher number because we were carrying some money for the clock tower.
Yep.
And then 2021 and 2022, we had $1,900. And Audrey got us a bit of a year to date about what you spent and what you spent it on, and that was up until September the 30th. That's your year to date expenditures. That page 13, the second page of this budget report. So you've to do the events that you've done, you can see what the expenditures are for. You're kind of in there. Total expenses around $1,275.
And that's mostly summer concerts. Do we spend money on anything else this year?
I think that's it.
Yeah. No, and that's pretty amazing. That
I think it
we
is.
pulled off 2 concerts for that price.
So,
So how much does Shania Twain cost?
Yeah.
I would hesitate maybe a little more.
It checks a lot of our boxes.
Checks all mine.
Kind of launched that. Okay.
Always need humor.
Maybe
Yeah.
a pamphlet redo or something, maybe we can come back with a quote on that, and that's something that could live in the budget. If we
Yeah.
wanted, or.
Sure. Yes, so I'm sensing, I think the conversation should probably go as well to, I don't know if we're going to get the Lost Villages program off the ground even in 2023,
Yeah.
realistically. I think we've got some background research to do that.
Yeah.
I'd like to actually, if we have a student, do a little background research to put that together, or work with the archives.
Yeah.
And one of their students to sort of drop a proposal into them and ask if they could assign that to one of the students they hire. They have a regular program of hiring students. They're supported by the archival material.
Yeah.
And I see that as kind of the research that then we take back and use to develop a
Start
research program.
Yeah.
Rather than us trying to manage that ourselves here. So I see that as a project, but something that probably doesn't cost the committee money, that we want to get on a projects list. And we can start that conversation with archives about whether or not they would consider adding some of the.
Right.
that
Say
work
this is
task.
what we want to do and
Yeah.
and work towards that.
And so when you're thinking about budget, this is the time of year to think about these projects. We have a few minor plaques and things to do. For example, we have that Motherwell brick from the Motherwell store on the feature wall at the new municipal office that we'll actually have a quick tour after this meeting and talk about that. And we want to put a little plaque on that, but I think we can run those costs through just general. We're not going to put a fancy brass plaque. It doesn't really jive with our sort of modest approach, but I think it needs some recognition
Mhm.
put on that wall, and we'll figure that out, but we won't run that through this budget.
Okay.
A couple of cultural events, do you want two? Do you want to sort of
That's
consider
up to the committee, whatever the
Yeah.
committee thinks.
do you want to consider them to be about $500 a piece, figure out how many you're
Oh,
gonna
I
do?
think about 6.
Yeah, and I think
The music, Bob Lozay was a little less because he had one member had got COVID.
Right.
So he took back, he was only about 400, I think it was. Randy Satchel was 475.
Yeah.
So if we would say 475, 500 approximately for the music. And then Dustin was saying, because it was a lot more work than what he remembered, because it had been a few years,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
every group is different, trying
Yeah.
to organize and
Yeah.
run all the chords and figure who
Yeah.
marries into who and all that stuff. I think the last one was, the first one was 150. I think the next one was 250. I
Yeah.
had.
So I-
Is that right? Okay. Okay.
Look at that. He's
And
going.
so I'm just suggesting 500 in the sense that I think we're gonna probably be able to offset the expenses with
Right.
the revenue. So I
Yeah.
think if you sort
Very
of
good.
consider them each to be a
Mhm.
$500 increment, think about how many you might do, knowing that they may cost you 800, but you might pass the hat for
Right.
300. And all you can do in these budget things is ballpark it.
Yeah.
And try to get it close. So I think if the committee has a sense of how many you want to do, you multiply them by 500 or 600 a
Mhm.
piece, and you put a little money in there for perhaps some pamphlets. And maybe you want to do a little print run of those. And maybe $1,900 is the right amount.
Yeah, it's about right already.
Good.
Yeah.
Love it when it comes together.
Anything else that the committee was thinking about? Anything else the committee in their initiatives?
Could there be a possibility of a provincial heritage conference?
I think that's under the travel,
Oh,
isn't it?
right.
I think that's already under there.
Attending the conference?
Yeah.
Yes, and that comes back. I think we kept carrying that
Yeah.
item so that we knowing during COVID, and we did this for a lot of our budgets, we carried these items knowing that we may not be able to use them.
Yeah.
And we just took them back in as surpluses at the end.
Yeah, I think that's the
Yeah,
travel,
okay.
what the travel
Yeah,
and
sorry.
mileage is. So yes, for sure. If
Yeah,
you,
so that's something for the committee to consider, and that conference will come back.
Is that spring usually?
We
Or
should
do you-
check.
Is that spring? Have you done
Uh,
that?
The amount,
I did it when it was.
check the amount for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Good.
So
it's
for sure.
spring. Yeah,
Yeah,
late spring.
we'll
So
try
yes.
to get an estimate on that. And bring it
Perfect.
back.
yeah, and I think 19, like, and even we were all kind of guesstimating the numbers, and it was also, the concerts were like, people were coming, people were going, some people came the first half and some people, it was very much, and then you're like, well, how do you count the people that like happened to be at the park that, stopped and watched for 15, 20 minutes, but weren't, had no idea that there was a concert going on. But I think I counted both. It was over 250 for sure.
Mhm.
I think 250 is a very conservative
I thought so as well.
number, and we were
When
getting
we were
close to
doing-
300, maybe 350, especially the first day. So if you go,
Seems
if we can
well
get
done.
a dollar ahead seems pretty reasonable
Yeah.
estimate to offset those
As you
costs.
said, it was so well received.
Yeah.
People would have no issue at all.
Yeah.
They were so happy just to get
Yeah.
out. And again, the fellowship.
Yeah.
Meet each other and listen. The music was great. Sometimes we even had people up dancing. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I didn't
Yeah.
know if I wanted
There's-
to try that or not, but
There's a whole group that was dancing,
yeah,
like
yeah, it was
12,
great.
6 couples, 12 people dancing
Mhm.
on the grass side the river. I was like, this is a beautiful moment. I was
It
like,
is.
good job, Murray.
Oh,
It was like,
it was a committee.
and Dustin. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
And people drove. There's people from Collingwood, some people from Sarnia were there.
Happened to be coming through and.
No, some people like,
Like for Randy.
yeah, for
me,
Randy, yeah,
He's got quite a following.
yeah,
So they were coming all over and it looked like a nice day and the setting was great.
yeah,
You know, the
And
first
thought,
day, as you
why
said, was
not?
quite warm, so
Yeah.
everybody was under trees, but it all worked.
yeah.
We made it work and everybody was happy.
So again, if you did a free concert with a donation, I'm sure if people are driving because they like Randy that much, I'm sure they wouldn't mind putting a few dollars in.
And even the locals, everybody
Yeah.
was just glad to
Yeah.
get together.
So do you have sense 2 or 3? You want to put 3 in or?
I
2?
think 3 would be doable if we do either like late June or really early July. And then try to stagger them either 3 weeks apart or once a month. Like if you did like the 3rd week of June, 3rd week of July, 3rd week of August,
Okay, yeah,
something like that would
Okay.
probably be.
yes, yes.
Because, yeah, and Dustin and I talked about it the last one. He's like, yeah, he's like, I think 4 would be too many. Then it would water it down a
Right.
little bit too much. And then people are like, oh, well, I'll go to, I'll go next week, right? So he's like, you kind of want to have a little bit of scarcity, but also he's like, and I was like, yeah, that seemed to make sense. And then if you get too close to the fair with, there's lots of live stuff at the fair, you don't want to compete with them
Mhm.
for either us or them. So I was like, so if you're early, middle of August of those ones, then you'd still kind of the
That
people,
time.
the satchel heads or whatever they're the fans that come with me. I don't know what his groupies are called that follow satchel, but
Okay, so
yeah.
what we'll do.
So I
is
would
we'll
say
put that
three
in.
would be max. So if we could ask for 3.
So that
Maybe.
$1,900 number looks
Still,
right then.
yeah.
For projects and it just feels so good to feel like you're getting back to normal and you can plan for this stuff and actually have some hope that it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, or some confidence that it's gonna happen. So, yeah, we'll figure it that way, and I think that $1,900 can be covered. Good.
Yeah.
Great conversation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Do you need a motion on that or is that just?
We'll bring it back as the committee.
And then we'll-
No, we'll bring back a revised budget and we'll get a budget recommendation to council.
Perfect. Okay. All right, so we're on to 5.5 for the Logan plaque.
Yes. Can I speak on that?
Sure.
All right, I was contacted by a couple of citizens and I drive by there a lot and didn't really notice it, which is bad, but it needs some attention.
Yeah.
It is somewhat, I guess the word would be weathered.
Yeah.
I would suggest, I think Dean Trentowski thought he knew more about it
Right.
than what I did, being he was representing Logan.
But it was clearing.
It was the 150th.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember at that.
Right.
So I don't know if it just needs cleaning or what it needs, but
Right.
it should be
Yeah, I think
attended to.
maybe refurbished and that will.
What is it made of?
I don't know. Dean thought maybe it was granite,
Okay.
but I don't know. It looks like it could be granite or steel. What I could do is actually I drive by there all the time. It's just to remember to stop.
Yeah,
I'm usually always 2 minutes
We're
late.
gonna
going
delegate to
somewhere.
you.
I've been meaning
That
to
I can
stop.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been meaning to stop too, because Dean mentioned this one to me, and I've been so meaning to stop, and I just haven't got around to. I
Wow.
can't. I'm always in a hurry to get something.
I'm by it 2 or 3 times a week. Like there really is no excuse, but
yeah.
that's what happens.
So we can stop if you get a chance to get a picture of it. and I'll
Okay, I will do that. Maybe bring it to the meeting if I could.
Just bring it to the
Or
next
just-
time you see us and we'll maybe
okay.
try to get an estimate. Would you?
Yeah, I think just confirm the material. If it's granite, we can certainly work through one of the cemetery contractors.
Right.
They'd be familiar with that. If it's brass, I think we could use someone else for that. So,
I'll get it. Yeah, I'll take a picture of it for you and then,
Bring it in.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
And can we set aside the funds that we haven't used at this time, or should we get an estimate?
This year yet.
Like we have $600, so if we put a number out and then it's under that number to repair, would that,
The committee
Work.
right now could, I guess if what you're looking for is to make a motion to authorize us to use up to $600 to repair the plaque or
I think we
monument.
should.
I think
So
so.
we'll
That's
get an
what we're here
estimate and
for.
come back, and if it's more than that, we'll come back to the committee, but otherwise that'll be sufficient direction, I think. for
Yeah.
us.
I'm good with that. Chris,
Fine with that. Yeah.
Did I make the motion? I made the motion.
Okay.
I'll second
Second and
it. Second.
pass.
I'll nod.
I think it's great that, and I think we're gonna see, we have another one that I'm working on right now. It's in Perth East and not in West Perth, but it's another case where there's a monument and it's falling into disrepair a little bit.
Yeah.
And everyone's looking at everyone else about who repairs this, and I think it's probably gonna become the cycle of these needs to
Yeah.
be done. And we may on a yearly basis end up getting these requests,
Yeah.
and we'll figure out how to do them
Right.
as we get them.
Mhm.
And because I don't think we have a comprehensive list.
I was gonna say, like, do we even know what's out there?
I don't think we do.
And to say this isn't necessarily precedent, but we can do this one and
Mhm.
And this concept of this, I got this vision of a project and, of getting the research done.
Yeah.
I think we could ask that, researching where our lost intersections are, our lost villages
Yeah.
are, and then identifying where our plaques are. Again, if you have the people doing this that have the right resources.
Yeah.
I think it's easy peasy, and they probably wonder why we get so, and maybe we just ask for that as well.
Yeah.
The lost villages and an inventory of plaques in Westford.
Yeah.
And then we have a bit of a plan. I think the Lost Villages program was the idea of kind of turning these areas that we've lost with some signage into
Yeah.
a bit of a shun piker or something
Yeah.
people could go look for.
Yeah.
And the plaques are the same.
Yeah.
So we maybe just get that thrown in. I'll put that in another project.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Jeff.
good.
Thank you.
Great. So looks like we have our next meeting, November 24th. We will presume will be in person,
Oh, yeah.
unless we hear otherwise.
We will always presume that.
From here on. Yes, I even have it on my calendar already. Great. Is there any other business anyone can think of?
I would just point to the committee that with new council and the election coming out,
Yep.
committee appointments are upcoming, so there's applications on the website. And we can look to that in the November meeting if everyone wants to run again or put their name forward.
Yeah, do we presume anything or we have to actively apply?
If we are already on the committee and you have interest in rejoining again next term, I just letting us know, and vice versa, if you don't want to be on it next year, letting us know, and then we can promote it more heavily.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get you to fill out the application form, but I think, you obviously
Yeah.
you don't have to have as much of a resume. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think I'm just trying to recall from the last time
I-
around, we just asked people, we made sure the committee members knew, and you should, when you're meeting regularly, we can let you know, and then, we'll just fill out a one pager.
Yep.
It's a pretty quick application. But don't
Yep.
forget, because that's
and
the,
you're off, Chris.
yeah,
I was like, we have one job.
Yeah. Pretty capital letters.
That's good.
capital letters, thanks, Chris.
Great. All right, well, if there is no other business and nothing else, then we can get a motion to adjourn. Murray,
Sorry.
I don't know if we need a second, but Chris second, so we'll consider that.
We need second for
I
adjournment.
don't think we do.
No.
So it's passed.
We get them.
Yeah, we do get them.
We got it. Okay, Chris was the second.
Okay.
You got your
Great.
name on there again, Chris.
It's unanimous again. Another unanimous decision.
Proves I was still awake at the end of the meeting.
Chris was with it enough to put his hand up. We're still good. So when do we, so do we do, do we do that now? Or we have to wait until council is in and then apply?
The form,
Yeah,
you can do it now. It's
Okay.
online.
yeah.